Everyone keeps talking about why past questions are one of the most effective tools for preparing for JAMB. Yes, they are correct. But no one talks about how to use past questions in such a way that is efficient and works in unison with our brain and how we learn, and take us from the lowest score to the highest possible score in the least amount of time. No one talks about how you can use past questions as a measurement tool to gauge how far you are prepared, and as an improvement tool to help you acquire that score that you have always wanted to have. In this video, we'll be taking a full dive into the research and application of past questions to get you that 300 plus that you have always wanted in JAMB 2024. Hi, my name is David. I've been a teacher for the past 4 years and a learning coach for the past 2 years. On this channel, I share tips, strategies that can help make learning easy and efficient without sacrificing family, friends, and health. If you're excited about the information coming up, leave a like on this video as this helps other students to find this resource as well. The question you might ask is, why do past questions work? I believe the right way to frame this is, why does the testing effect work? 1. The way of framing it as a testing effect is more similar with what we're trying to achieve in this video, and it's a proper representation of what this process is about. Imagine you are an athlete and you are preparing for the Olympics. One approach is to prepare for the Olympics for the next 2 months and wait for like 2 weeks before the race that you start having full bursts of races preparing for the Olympics. Another approach an athlete can take is to prepare for the Olympics through a weekly schedule. So he prepares throughout the week, and on Saturday or Sunday he has one full race whereby he has opportunities to assess what he needs to improve towards the race or towards the Olympics that is coming. Which of these two athletes do you think will win the racing event? Take a guess. The 10 past questions is more like the first athlete, whereby the past question is more in terms of preparation towards the exam instead of making it part of the learning process. While the testing effect is more like the second athlete, who prepares normally like he would for the Olympics, but takes a specific race or a specific measurement race at the end of the week to gauge if all he has done throughout the week is enough to make him have the highest medal possible in the Olympics. Another key point that will inform the rest of the video is the difference between past questions and practice tests. Now, past questions are found mostly at the back of the chapter of the book. So if you are going through, let me say, circulatory system, for example, and you go to the back of the book or back of the chapter of the book and you see questions there, those are past questions. Now, practice tests are exam simulations. They are meant to be structured like your exam. So your mock exams that various tutorials hold are examples of practice tests. It's important for us to have a distinction between the both of them because it's going to inform everything that we do or the process that I'm going to explain in this video. I know the next question is this: why does this testing effect work? Remember, what reframed past questions into the testing effect. There are 3 stages to the learning process. There's the encoding, the storage, and the retrieval. Why the encoding process plays a very important role in how much or how long an information is stored, the retrieval or the constant retrieval of an information also helps to improve the storage ability of that information. For example, I go through acid and base in chemistry. If my encoding process is quite very good, don't worry, I'll make a video about that later in the future. If my encoding process is quite very good, I can push up the level of remembers or the level of storage till about 75%. And the numbers of retrieval I have of that specific information further strengthens that information to the extent that I don't forget. For example, if you see a person anew and the person strikes a conversation with you, you might remember the name of the person for the first few weeks, but give it 2-3 weeks and you don't have any reason to remember the name of that person, you tend to forget who that person is, or you tend to forget even the conversation you had that day. The testing effect system I'm going to explain in this video shortens the gap between the encoding and the retrieval. The more retrieval we have and the more extensive they are, the more the storage strength of that particular information that we're trying to encode. That's why when we come into the exam, it looks as if the exam is easy. Yes, because you have given a lot of time to the encoding and also an extensive period of time, an extensive system to the retrieval as well. 2, it makes the information malleable. Think of a clay. When a sculptor brings a lump of clay, he has to make this clay material into different items like cup, chairs, table, and each of those various items started from this lump of clay. The same way it is when we come across practice questions or practice tests. It's taking the same lump of information that we have gotten from our textbooks, from our study materials, and transforming them into these items of exams, these questions of exams. And so what the testing effect does, it helps you to form a malleable effect to the information that you have encoded. You cannot be tested the same way you encoded acid and base, but a lot of the time students leave it as the same lump of clay or lump of information that they had when studying without considering what is the end product of this lump of clay. So the practice test and the practice question works by helping us to be able to consider what is this information that I'm taking, how can it be tested. And the familiar we have with this form of malleability of information, the better it is for us to retrieve it. How can we then implement the testing effect not just as a run-up to the exam, but part of the learning process itself? Firstly, we need to determine what I like to call the competence and the confidence skill. And how do we do this? Very simple. Take 3 practice tests. By now, you should know the difference between practice tests and practice questions. Take 3 practice tests, whereby it's in the exam format of 2 hours, 4 subjects that you are intended to write in the forthcoming JAMB, and make sure that you are answering them like you would in the exam situation. And at the point of taking this practice test, it's important that we do not guess, because what we are trying to find is how confident we are in answering a question. You come across a question, you are not so confident about it, but you can guess and you got the answer right, and you can deceive yourself into believing that you know that information. So what we're trying to get in this situation is a confidence level. Leave them alone, submit the exam after you're done, and forget about the score at this moment. Do the same process for 3 practice tests, and at the end of the 3 practice tests, pick up those scores from the 3 practice tests divided by 3. That should be your confidence score. Now you can also take a competence exam. Now there are 2 ways you can take this competence exam. You can decide to take it yourself by using the same CBT app that you used for the confidence score or for the confidence skill. You are allowed to guess as much as possible. Or you can also decide to take a general mock exams that your tutorials or any other tutorial is offering. I've noticed that the gap or the range of score for students specifically for JAMB falls between the confidence skill and the competence skill. For example, if a student has 230 as the confidence skill and the student has 290 as the competence skill, the usual JAMB score is between that same range of around 250 to 60. And this process also helps us provide a standpoint for measurement and be able to help us know where we need to improve, which subjects do I need to work upon. The next stage is to fill in the knowledge gaps. You know those questions that you left because you didn't want to guess? You are to pick those questions and try and identify which topic that it came from in each of the individual subject. What you are trying to do at this stage is try as much as possible to understand and assimilate that information or those concepts that you know you had failed or you are not confident in answering. If you want a video about how to learn faster and retain information better by going through your materials or your textbooks just once, leave a comment in the description box below and subscribe and turn on the notification bell so that you'll be notified anytime new video drops. Number 1, you are not wasting your time going through concepts or information that you are already confident in. It stops the general illusion that students have whenever they're preparing for multiple subjects exam, whereby they keep on studying concepts that they tend to have a bit of mastery in them so as not to come in contact or come to the awareness that they still struggle with physics or they still struggle with chemistry. So if you are very good in biology, you will tend to want to study biology more often when you know that the JAMB exam is a combination of 4 subjects and not just 1 or 2 subjects that you are pretty strong in. Whenever rockets are about to launch, they have test launches whereby they plan an example of what it means to launch that rocket. What are the possible wrongs that can happen? Possible wrongs that would happen, are working on them in such a way that it doesn't happen in the eventual expensive rocket launch. That's essentially what we're trying to do. We're trying to identify those gaps that we have so that by the time we're getting to the more expensive or more high-stake exams like JAMB, we wouldn't need to come and start saying, okay, oh, I forgot that concept, or I forgot that information that I need to retrieve. The next strategy is one that I've seen almost no student use, which is the power of pretest. So now, a pretest is taking a practice question before going through the content or the chapter that I'm about to study. So for example, if I'm using a textbook and I'm about to go through circulatory system, using the power of pretest is going to the back of the textbook and checking out the questions that are there and trying as much as possible to solve them. If you are prepared for JAMB, I highly recommend the use of JAMB Remix in this instance. I'm about to go through circulatory system. I go to JAMB Remix and try as much as possible to answer every question before going through the chapter. I know the next question you are asking is this: what if I don't know any single thing about circulatory system? Well, this is why this process works so well. Our brain doesn't like to be wrong. This is a concept in psychology called the hypercorrection effect, whereby our brain tends to keep information that we have been wrong longer than information where we always assume that we already know. Another benefit of the pretest is by the time I have gone through circulatory system and I have marked it, and I found out that I missed a lot of the questions. When I'm going through the textbook, because my brain knows that I missed this question and it doesn't like to be wrong about things, my focus is more heightened and my attention is more sharpened through a process of active learning. I prime my brain with a question, and our brain is a very good problem solver. And in the bid to solve that problem, your brain deploys all resources that it needs to solve that particular problem, which means we are more attentive when we read. We remember more of the information that we are storing into our memory. In this form of the testing effect, I have to say that persistence is what really matters. Imagine I don't know anything about organic chemistry and I go through the JAMB Remix, and let me say out of 130 questions, I had just 10 correct. The first response would be, oh, I don't know it, or oh, I'm not so good at organic chemistry, and I will leave it alone. These are traits of what is called a fixed mindset, where we believe that we cannot improve on our knowledge, we cannot improve on our capability of understanding and information. A proper approach, which is the growth mindset, is to come across that information, to come across that score, believing I can know it. A study gave a massive open online course, took students that enrolled into a massive open online course and divided them into 2 groups. One group were given pre-tests before they started the course, another group were not given pre-tests before they started the course. They noticed that almost 50% of those that were given pre-tests ended up not finishing the course because the pre-test showed to them that they were very bad at what they are about to study, which is the response that most students have. Then they noticed that those who maintained their enrollment in the massive open online course did far better than the second group that they didn't give any form of pretest. Why? Because they reframed their mindset from the fixed mindset of I cannot improve into the growth mindset of I can always improve. And they also used the hypercorrection effect. And because of the hypercorrection effect, they reported that they were coming into study with more of an active understanding and a curiosity to know the answer. The final strategy is the use of practice tests. Now, there are two ways to use this practice test. The first strategy of using the practice test is after you have gone through the confidence and the competence skill, take 2 practice tests every week. Now, your aim is not how close you are to the exam or how far the distance between your friends. For example, you took a competence skill test and it's in a mock in the tutorial and your friend has 320 and you are having 250. That is not your measurement skill. Your measurement skill is how you have improved for that week. So if you started the process that I explained at the beginning of this video and your competence scale was 230 and you got a 250, that is an improvement. And peradventure, if you got, let me say, 220, then you can begin to question yourself and try and find out what went wrong. After taking the competence practice test, the next strategy is to take the confidence practice test. Watch how you improve in this course. The best time that I advise to take this test is at the weekend because you have the time to reflect outside of your usual study time. So if you have read or prepared for JAMB throughout the week, the weekend, Saturdays, Sundays is the appropriate time to take your practice test for the week to prepare you for what you need to improve for the upcoming week. The next phase of this practice test is to take a practice test every day for the next 2 weeks before your exams. In this practice test, you can guess, because if you had gone through the process that I enumerated this video, you are getting to the stage whereby you are not just making random guesses. You can make guesses that are calculated. For example, if I give you a question and I say, what is the animal that has trunks, that has big hooves, that is gray, that eats grasses? And let us imagine you are forgetting that this animal is an elephant. But we are given options of a tiger, elephant, antelope, cheetah. Based on that description, you can be able to dissociate or disconnect lion from the answer, antelope from the answer. You're left with cheetah and the elephant, and you're wondering, okay, what is probably the answer? At this point, based on that description, you can guess it is an elephant that is the answer. I don't necessarily know the answer. This is the power of what I like to call calculated guesses, based on improving my confidence as well as improving my competence. We have situations whereby a student is very competent in the information that they know, but because they have not been able to gauge that level of confidence, by the time they come into the exam and the exam fever happens or their system has a fault, or there is a student beside them who seems not to understand all that the computer is giving them, then fear strikes in. They have not been able to develop that confidence and they are suddenly afraid of what to do. Hence, they come out of the exam with bad results. The question I'd like you to ask yourself is, anything you will not be able to do during the exams, during this 2 weeks before the exam when you are taking the practice test, do not do them. Take your phones out of the room. If you are using your system, that's also beautiful because that's what you'll be using for the exam. And if you are using your phone, put it to airplane mode, put it to do not disturb, imitate the testing environment and get your brain, your body potentially used to the situation that you would be sitting for in the exam. Thank you for staying this far. Why past questions are such an effective tool of knowing when to improve, knowing exactly what to do immediately while done studying is as well important. Research has shown that doing the right activities immediately we are done studying can tremendously affect our remembrance of that information. Watch this video here where I go through exactly what you need to do after you are done with your study period or study routine. I will see you in that video.